Hi everybody, and welcome to Vinoculture Wine Education Company, where we do videos here on YouTube so that you can learn from the comfort of your own home. Hopefully you're drinking at the same time too. Tonight we're going to be talking about Nebbiolo, one of my all-time favorite grapes. People always ask me what my favorite wine is, and that's impossible. It's like picking a favorite pair of shoes, and I do not believe you should ever do that. But if I had to pick a top 10 list or a top 5 list of favorite grapes or favorite regions, Nebbiolo would be on the list of favorite grapes, and Piedmont, Italy would be on the favorite list for regions. So tonight we're going to be tasting 2 different Nebbiolos from 2 different regions in Piedmont, Italy, drastically different styles and winemaking techniques, and I'm going to review them online. So unopened, and we're gonna taste and see. Hopefully they're not corked or faulty or anything, and yeah, we're gonna have a good time. If you have some Nebbiolo at home, pop that bottle. I don't care if you've been saving it for a special occasion. Today is a special occasion. You're alive. Drink the wine. So first off, I'm gonna be trying something from Alto Piemonte. It's by Le Piane. It's a winery in Bocca, Italy. So Bocca is a tiny little region in the northern part of Piedmont, Italy, former like glacier lands, very different, unique terroir. And instead of just 100% Nebbiolo, they usually blend it with Vespolina, and in this case, Croatina as well, some indigenous varieties. This is technically the birthplace of Nebbiolo, even though lower Piedmont, like Barbaresco and Barolo, are more famous for their Nebbiolos. Bocca is actually the birthplace for Nebbiolo. So we are gonna check this out and see what they taste like. Just so you know, I never get samples given to me. I'm never paid for any of these online reviews, so you don't have to worry that I'm gonna give a good review just because someone's paying me to do that. If that ever happens, I will disclose that, that is the case, that someone gave me the wine. But I love Nebbiolo, and any excuse to drink it is a great excuse. So this wine right here by De Forville is from Alba. So there's 2 primary cities in Lower Piedmont, in the Langhe, large region in the Lower Piedmont region of Italy. And Alba is one of the key cities. Asti is the other. So if you ever have heard of a Moscato d'Asti, that is Moscato, the grape from the village of Asti, also known for lots of reds. So don't think that just because something is from Asti, it's going to be a sweet, sparkling white wine. So, well, we already have a problem. This wine is corked. It smells like wet dog, moldy newspaper. It's not good. That's faulty. Your wine should never smell like wet dog rolling around in moldy newspaper. So shoulder that for a second, or shelf that for a second. Luckily, I have a second bottle. That is why you taste wine at restaurants. When the server pours you that 1 ounce and you're supposed to check and see if it's good, they pour you that 1 ounce. They're letting you check to make sure that the wine is not corked or faulty in any sense. So if a wine ever smells like that, send it back, or if you've already gone home with it from a retail store, take it back to the retailer, because your wine should never smell like that. And the reason is just because this cork is introduced to chlorine in some sense and creates a new chemical. TCA is the abbreviation for that, and that TCA infects the smell of the wine, and that smell is that moldy cardboard, wet newspaper, mildew kind of smell. So we're good here. That smells delightful. So I'm glad I had a second bottle. All right, so I'm gonna put the Le Piane over here, and the De Forville over here. And in the comments below, I'll make sure that you have all the information of these specific wines in case you're interested in checking them out. So, all right, so you always wanna have a white background to check out the color of a wine. Because if you hold it up to the light, I'm just picking up the color from all around the room, not the actual true pigmentation and concentration of the wine. So I'm gonna hold them on its side and look straight down. Initially, the Le Piane is much more like red in color. It's got a little like of a brickish tawny hue to it, but it's a little bit deeper concentration. And the De Fourville is much more of that brickish tawny hue. It's got a little brown tinged rim and lighter concentration of color too. And the Le Piane is a little bit cloudy, which means that it's probably an unfiltered wine. I'm going to check out these legs, reflecting the light brilliantly. The legs tell us alcohol percentage, so I'm looking to see if they're really thick and defined and slow to form and fall, or if they're thin, less defined, less easy to see, and faster to form and fall. Initially, the Le Piane is falling much faster and thinner legs, and then this De Fourville is much slower legs and quite a bit slower too. So I'm going to guess that the De Fourville has a little bit of a higher alcohol percentage. We're at 14% on that one, and yeah, 13% on the Le Piane, so that would confirm that. Next, we're going to smell. It's the most exciting thing for Nebbiolo because Nebbiolo is so aromatic. It's got, generally speaking, we'll see about these, so much of these like red floral notes, super floral sometimes, and tons of cherry, both the skins, the pits, the pith, and the actual flesh of the cherry. Sometimes you get a little bit of this like dark minerality. It can go so far as to taste or smell like road tar. It can be so intense on the minerality. And sometimes a woodsy note. Both of these wines are, if they are aged in oak at all, it's very old oak and very large oak cask, so you shouldn't be smelling oak on either of these wines. Let's give it a good whirl. I always recommend sticking your nose all the way in the glass. Don't waft and be dainty. It's, you're missing out on all the fun, especially with Nebbiolo. So, first impression, this is actually, instead of all the bright red cherries that I'm used to, this is actually a lot deeper, and it's got some like plum notes and some smoky notes to it. Tons of flowers, definitely got some like, that minerality is borderline more like pencil shavings, like graphite kind of minerality, definitely not that road tar. It's really fruit forward. Sometimes Nebbiolo can be really austere and it smells more of minerals and everything else and not the fruit and the flowers. This is really fruit forward and feminine on the nose. Those plum notes, man, that's really interesting. Okay, I love smelling Nebbiolo. So this wine, right off the bat, totally different. Instead of all these like deeper, darker plum notes, I'm just getting red fruit, red flowers, all of the red, bright lifted things like rhubarb and, oh my gosh, like candied strawberries and, this is gorgeous. I'm so excited to taste both of these wines. Beautiful, beautiful wines right off the top. They're both super feminine on the nose. However, this just seems a lot deeper, and it seems a lot brighter and lifted. Now, when we go to taste these wines, I am looking for the structure of the wines, and specifically with Nebbiolo, I'm looking for the structure of high acidity and high tannins. So if you remember from my blind tasting video, acidity is the mouth watering effect in the back of your mouth. Tannins is the mouth drying effect in the front of our mouth. And even though I can easily read through these, which means it's a thinner skinned grape, so you might think it's going to be like light and soft and easy to drink, I know in advance that Nebbiolo is a very tannic grape, even though it has thinner skins. Those tannins can come from the skins of the grape, the seed, and the oak that the wine was aged in. Naturally, for whatever reason, even though Nebbiolo has thinner skins, rustic tannins, sometimes pretty aggressive. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of the structure, but the body itself should be a little bit lighter body. It's not gonna be like dense and weigh you down like a huge Cabernet Sauvignon or anything like that. So let's give this a swirl. And all these purple flowers are coming out. So if there's one huge difference between the two, it's like this is more purple in characteristics and this is more red in characteristics. So let's try it. Yeah, interestingly enough, Definitely a lot more red fruit and red floral notes on the palate. But holy cow, it's hard to talk. The wine has such high acid and such rustic tannins too. So my mouth is watering a whole lot and it's drying out in the front all at the same time, which makes for a really complex and interesting wine structure-wise. Cool. That is delicious. The finish is lingering a whole long time. At this point, I'm tasting all of this like dark minerality, definitely all those pencil shavings that we smelled, and those like plum skins as well. Yeah, that finish is going on a long time. It's quite delightful. All right, so let's smell and taste the De Fourville Nebbiolo from Alba. Also wildly different. Definitely all of those like red floral notes. To me, this is more fruit forward and this is more floral. Just basic differences there. But all of those candied strawberries and candied strawberries and rhubarb. That bitterness of the rhubarb is really coming through. So the bitterness that is in this wine does not exist in this wine at all, which just would mean that I would pair it differently. I really love bitterness in wine, so it's not a bad thing at all. So lighter bodied for sure. I think the actual body of the Le Piane is much richer. Still not a full-bodied wine by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a little bit deeper than the lighter bodied, almost ethereal note of this De Fourville. Both beautiful wines. I think I would probably prefer, if I was just gonna drink a glass of wine alone, like without pairing it with a specific food, I would love the Measurina. I think it's a little bit fresher, it's a little bit more fruit forward, a little bit rounder as well, versus the mouth stripping acidity and intense tannins of the De Fourville makes me want food with it. I really would love a mushroom risotto, classic dish in Piedmont with this. Could also just do with a good steak. I wouldn't want something too intense, no like balsamic glaze or mushrooms on top of that, like just a classic New York strip, something fatty for those acid and tannins to grip onto. Whenever you get a chance, I highly recommend that you try 2 wines at home at the same time. So if I were to drink this wine tonight and tomorrow night drink this wine, I would be hard pressed, especially if I'm just enjoying the evening, to remember what this wine tasted like when I'm drinking this one. So it's not going to give me the comparative advantage of trying wines side by side. So trying 2 Nebbiolos from 2 different regions side by side but the same vintage is really helpful for me to understand more about what Nebbiolo tastes like. So I highly recommend you do the same thing. Share it with some friends or not, I'm not judging. But trying wines side by side is one of the best ways that you can improve your palate and become a better taster. I'm really looking forward to see how these wines open up over the next couple of hours while I go eat dinner. And I will let you know in the comments how they open up. But either of these wines are delicious. I'd say either of them definitely good for the next 5 years. And both like great price points, like under $30, Nebbiolo from Piedmont, Italy, with structure, character, and integrity, showing terroir, but also really beautiful fruit as well. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Drinking on the Job featuring Nebbiolo from Piedmont, Italy. I look forward to seeing you again soon, and until then, drink some fabulous wine. Cheers.